Getting back to your solution, the economic side of things, and you know, really addressing poverty head on. We were talking earlier about the fact that if we took the money that each of us puts into Social Security and put it into private savings accounts, even with the interest rates so low that, and I wrote a book about this, that every single American who did that would be a millionaire by the time of retirement age. And yet we look at what Social Security gives back, and it's a paltry sum compared to what we put into it.
Well, but look at the model. That's why the model is inconsistent with the founding of this country. You got current workers paying for current retirees. I mean, this is theft. And what makes it even worse is liberals. They just can't seem to want people to live free. They're the ones that want to hinder people from being able to be free. Yes, if you put your money in a personal retirement account, you'd fare better.
But how do we get there? Because if you even talk about that, you're attacking Social Security, and everybody gets scared, and you just can't even have a discussion.
It's interesting because CURE has done study on this as an organization. We actually even testified in front of the commission that George W. Bush had when he was looking at Social Security and perhaps knowing that we should start moving money into personal retirement accounts. This is just not about the economic well-being of the individual. This is about the economic well-being of our nation. We can't sustain this anymore. I mean, we're talking $80 trillion liabilities here, okay? So it's just not functional. When you have baby boomers now getting ready to retire, 10,000 a day, are turning 65 years old, those baby boomers living longer, and they were convinced not have too many children because they're environmental hazards. Come on. So that pyramid turned upside down. And so we don't have the resources in our youth to pay for this type of model. So we need to move it over. How do you do it? Well, Bush tried to do it with 30 years and under. I was one that objected to that because I know how these liberals promote their ideas in the media, and they did exactly what we discussed, which was to go out and tell the American people that 30-year-old rich people are just trying to hide their money because they hate the poor. Because they have convinced many people, poor people, that they're poor because the wealthy are wealthy. This is a great lie. And money moves. You're not poor because wealthy are wealthy. I think then we should just look at that poor community. We should say perhaps everyone under $30,000 a year, perhaps everyone under $30,000 a year, and everyone 30 years old under $30,000 a year should be able to start the transitioning process. Because look what we do in Social Security right now. The individual puts in 6.2% of his income, comes straight out of his check. Most people don't even notice it coming out of their check. The employer is forced to put that 6.2 into that black hole that the government has set up called Social Security. That it doesn't have your name on it. You don't own it. You get a horrible rate of return. It's the next group of workers that are going to pay those bills that they say that they will retire you on. So why not even allow the 6.2% that the individual is paying? I think we should do all of it and just let a younger group that makes less money start setting up personal retirement accounts. Because if we were to do that, you would not run into problems with transition costs, because that is what they use as scare tactics. What you just said is to say, well, seniors are going to start starving if you move the money away. They start that, the seniors get afraid because, yes, they are retired on it, especially the poorer you are, the more you're dependent on that Social Security check, so you get afraid and you start calling your congressman. That's why they won't touch it. But if you allow only the poorer group, it's similar to the model that has gotten school choice in our societies now, to where if you only start with the people that are most desperately needed, so you start with the poorer group and the youth of that poorer group, I think that it would be a beginning transition. Remember when Chile privatized their Social Security, they began very small. 10% came out, and then the next year, 90% came out. And it was always a choice program, and that's what we talk about here in Social Security reform with personal retirement accounts. It's your personal choice. If you want to stay in the government's promise, stay. But they shouldn't trap you there. It's a challenge for us to keep saying that this is okay, to force employers to put in money that they know. While you're sitting over here with a 401k, you shouldn't have asked me this question, you know that, because this is my passion. You have a 401k plan that you can't even put money in, but you're throwing that same money, government's forcing you to put it in a black hole that you don't own. There's something really the matter with that. And I think that if we were to allow for poor people to get their money out of Social Security and put it into a wealth producing account, they would then feel they have a stake in this country. And I think that some of the tensions that we talked about earlier, the racial tensions, the economic tensions, would start to dissipate, because when you own something, you take care of it and you become much more responsible by it. What we've done over the last 50 years with this whole scenario of the left is created what some have called the tragedy of the commons. No one owns it, so no one takes care of it. And that's why most poor communities are also filthy communities. When you look back 60, 70 years, you were poor, but it wasn't dirty. I mean, someone even did a song one time about how, your clothes were old, but never were they dirty. And what we have now.
Diana Ross.
Oh, did she?
I think it was.
No, it wasn't. It
No?
was a guy
Oh,
living
okay.
just enough. I think it was Stevie Wonder. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, it was. She may have sung it too. But you're right. But what we now have is a lack of ownership. And when people feel that they don't own something, they don't take care of it. And what has happened now with the welfare state is people don't even own their own lives, so they don't take care of them. They don't take care of them medically, so Medicaid is out of control. They don't take care of them spiritually, so their decisions are out of control, and they don't take care of them economically, so their communities are out of control.
But we've been talking about these kinds of solutions for a long time. At least,
Right.
I mean, for the 25 years we've known each other,
Right.
this national dialogue has been taking place at low levels. But do you see any progress to
Well,
achieving
I
this
see
goal?
progress only because I'm trying to make progress, because we have been talking about it for 25 years, and it's one of the reasons I started CURE. We've been talking to each other. What the people who have the ideas for freedom have done over the last 25 years that I've been in this public life is built out an R&D department, and they have no marketing department. That's why it's important what you do. Constantly putting information in the public so that people can get it. Some things you have to get more information for. You can't figure it out on your own. And so we need to get that information, though, to the people it matters to most. We need to get this information to poor people.
Right.
It's like, wealthy get it, obviously, because that's why they're wealthy. They know that they should save and invest. And
Yeah.
they do it. They know that they should be responsible by the choices that they make. And they do it. And they require their children to do it.
We keep thinking that these folks are going to say, I've been doing the same thing over and over and it's not working, and let's try something else. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, it's not the case
with this.
because, first of all, they don't know what this something else is. The second thing is, remember, this is law. The law does not allow them to take this little bit that they have, that they could save, and put it in an account
Right.
they own. So if you're only making $24,000 a year, there isn't that much wiggle room to put in an account where you're saving some money so that you can go out and buy things, so that you
Right.
can build wealth, so that you can build net worth. But there is 6.2% coming out of your check to go to Social Security. There is 6.2% that your employer is forced to put into Social Security. So if that money were transitioned into this account, the poor become like the wealthy. They become investors in their own society.
What would happen if the Republicans in the House today, they control the House of Representatives, they put forth the kind of legislation, we need to do this, and it gets shot down in the U.S. Senate, let's say, Wouldn't that be major progress toward getting this issue out? Why are the Republicans,
like
of
that.
all people,
Well-
so hesitant to fight for this
Well, you
aggressively?
got to find fighters for, and maybe there are. In fact, that's one of the things that we're hoping to do coming out of our policy summit after next week. We have about 80 pastors and their wives and other guests coming to Washington, D.C. for a policy summit. And one of our presenters, in addition to Dr. Benjamin Carson, one of our presenters is Peter Ferrara, who has done extensive work in Social Security reform. And he and Bill Shipman, economists, have written extensively about what happens when poor people move their money. And they've looked at the numbers. And so I'm hoping what comes out of that is some discussion with some of our congressional leaders to say, not only should you champion this in the House, but perhaps it's time for another contract with America on two major points. We had 10 points then. Maybe two things to move us into the health that we're always discussing. One, personal retirement accounts in Social Security for the most at risk in our society. But number two, personalized and health care. We need to talk about what we should be doing as opposed to just Obamacare and what we shouldn't. and getting then those senators or those senator wannabes that are coming up for reelection next year to have to sign off on this contract. Because you're right, we at some point we've got to get proactive to get the type of political environment in Washington to get these things done. You know, fortunately, when we had power in the hands of those that say that they want these ideas, they didn't get it done. Unfortunately, they went other direction. I was very disappointed when Bush brought up this faith-based initiative put into churches now on welfare while we're trying to move women off. I was very disappointed in what I saw in education reform instead of vouchers. I was extremely disappointed, of course, in not being able to get personal retirement accounts, but I'm not blaming him for all of it. You've got to have some public consensus, and we've got to talk about these things with the public. We've got to talk about them very simply so that they understand it's just moving your money to ownership before the demagogues get out of there and tell them that, oh, they're just, you know, trying to destroy Social Security and the wealthy are just trying to run away with their money so that they don't invest in your future. The dialogue must change. You're absolutely right. Otherwise, we can't expect the Congress to get it done. They represent the people, so the people have to push them to do what we think we want. And this is something that, you know, you and other communicators and myself have to get to the people that it should matter to most. And that is the working class of America that find that their checks are getting smaller by the day compared to where we could be because of some of the economic decisions that this president has made. Policy changes behavior, and behavior changes opinion, and opinion changes policy. So it's a circle. And what we've done is allowed for policy to reward irresponsibility. That's what needs to change. We've got to get the law to encourage saving, to encourage wealth building, as opposed to encouraging people just to sit back, relax, and let somebody else pay the bills.